Europe and China are marking 50 years of diplomatic relations amid trade friction, investment barriers, and geopolitical tensions. According to reports, the high-stakes summit underway in Beijing after the Chinese president reportedly declined to attend the event in Brussels. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the President of the European Council leading the delegation, they are seeking to strengthen cooperation with China while addressing concerns revolving around trade practices, IP protection, and the Russia-Ukraine war. The talks, originally planned for 2 days, have been scaled back to 1, stating that ties with China stand at an inflection point. Von der Leyen called for a rebalancing of trade ties, citing a trade deficit of 305.8 billion euros with China.
As our cooperation has deepened, so have the imbalances. We have reached an inflection point. Rebalancing our bilateral relation is essential, because to be sustainable, the relations need to be mutually beneficial. And to achieve this, it is vital for China and Europe to acknowledge our respective concerns and come forward with real solutions.
Xi Jinping urged the EU to make correct strategic choices during the meeting, while calling for greater communication.
The more complex and challenging the international situation becomes, the more China and Europe need to strengthen communication, enhance mutual trust, and deepen cooperation so as to contribute greater stability and certainty to the world through a steady and healthy China-Europe relationship.
During a meeting, the European Council President urged China to utilize its permanent seat on the UN Security Council to pressure Russia into ending its aggression in Ukraine.
As a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, we call on China to use its influence on Russia to respect the United Nations Charter and to bring an end to its war on aggression against Ukraine.
And with us on the broadcast this minute is our correspondent Will Denslow from Brussels. Will, you know, there's a lot at stake here, but if you can just begin by explaining to our viewers what the EU strategy is looking like at this point, specifically when it comes to trying and rebalancing those trade ties with China.
You're absolutely right that there is a huge amount on the line. Considering the scale of this relationship, it accounts for nearly a third of global GDP. But as you mentioned, as far as the EU is concerned, they believe that this relationship has grown increasingly imbalanced, and that is something that they want to see addressed. And when it comes to that imbalance, well, they look at the figures which suggest that over the past decade, the trade deficit has doubled, now stands at roughly $350 billion when it comes to the deficit in goods. As far as the EU is concerned, there's less than 10% of EU goods exported to China, while Chinese goods going the other way to Europe stands at close to 25%. So as far as the EU is concerned, the statistics very much speak for themselves. A number of other issues, though, they blame things like subsidies, unfair subsidies that are harming competition, as well as market access. So these are a few things that were on the table in these discussions that Antonio Costa, the European Council President, described as open and frank exchanges. The message from Costa at the conclusion of this one-day summit was that it was a good opportunity to have talks. Now it's important to turn those talks into action.
All right, remains to be seen which way things go from here onwards. Thanks very much, Will, for those updates for now.